to the show, everyone. I am Max. This is the RHMax channel. Pumped. God, that intro gets me pumped up. Thanks again to Markable for doing the new media package. He did not do this background though. He did the other background. This is my throwback McDonald's. Longtime listeners in the last few months may have seen I did an episode with Orca, the McDonald's episode, which was a great episode. Lots of good gems and fun stuff in there. And actually I have my McDonald's hat, which I don't know where it's at right now, or else I might have wore it today. But anyways, want to give a throwback shout out to anyone working in the bear so they can retire in that bull, whether it's McDonald's or anywhere else. Get that money, put it into crypto, doing all the good stuff like that. Today, Kinetics is on the show. This should be fun. He's going to tell us exactly when and where the documentary is going to drop and answer all of the questions completely because he is 100% in the know. Let's get him in. Without further ado, what's up, Kinetics?
What's up,
buddy? Is that true?
Yeah, that's a heck of an intro and a hell of a standard to hold me to here on this, because I don't think I can meet that standard.
You're basically producing, directing. You're doing everything yourself and you got people working for you, but you know all the timelines, and you came on the show today to give us all the details. That's what I'm
in all the rooms negotiating. It was me behind the camera. I carried all the gear to and fro every location. Yeah, no, none of that is true.
Okay. Well, we're gonna find out because we got some things to get into. It's glad to finally meet you, get you on stream. And it's been a while. We talked back and forth, and just appreciate you coming today and just showing up and come to talk to us, because you're kind of, I know you've been around for a long time, have a bunch of different businesses and activities around HEX, done a lot for the community, and it's good to just get you on the stream and just kind of go through a conversation.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet, someone who does it better than we did. We knew that we were going to bring in, just by being the guys that started the community streams, that we were going to be able to bring in people that were better at what they do than us, and were able to increase the quality of the HEX streaming out there. And you're one of those individuals. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for filling that void for us.
I appreciate it. I stand on the shoulder of giants, all that stuff. I was really passive. I mean, I've been following RH since 2017, but nobody knew who I was until this past year, because I was just passive. I didn't even have Twitter that I would, talk to the community with, but watched all this stuff, watched all the streamers, watched you guys for a long time. And then finally thought, hey, RH keeps talking about people should have utility. I don't feel very utilitized right now. I don't feel very useful right now. Yeah, I should go out and start doing at least Twitter. And then I went to a local meetup in Washington, and and Jerry Oaksmith, who's in the chat, he's one of the organizers. And remember somebody else asked me, "Oh, are you a streamer too?" Because Bally Brand was there and a couple other people. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not streaming. I don't think I get into that or anything." And then like 2 weeks later, I got YouTube. I was like, all right, I got a mic. Okay, I got a lighting. I got it all set up, and I started my first stream. So,
glad to have you here, man. Because I think it really enriches the whole community when we get new personalities on, because some people hate me, but they love you, and maybe vice versa. And I think that the more different types of personalities and the more different types of HEX content we get out there, the more likely people are to find us. Not just by having more minutes, watchable minutes on YouTube, but just people that you can connect with and that you can associate yourself with.
Absolutely. I think there's every YouTuber, influencer, person on camera that's talking about stuff, that has guests, whatever you want to call them, they have their own style, they have their own objectives. For me, like as you've seen, I try to prep a little bit. I try to come into it, try to get to know the person, ask the questions that the people want to know, and really get, and make good clips out of it too, and have those bite-sized things people can digest. And that's where I go through the clip hell, I go through the thumb hell to try to get out the message in that way. So
it's a lot of work that goes into that. People don't realize. I mean, that's hours and hours and hours of consumed hours in 1 week to make things like that happen. So thanks for doing that, because I don't, and I wish I did. It's really difficult. There's only so many hours in a day and so many hours in a week, and we had to choose where we put those hours. And as of right now, hopefully I'll get to the point where I'm useless in my businesses and I can just focus on doing that kind of stuff. But right now, in the infancy of some of the things we're doing, I don't have a choice. The family would suffer because of it, and the wife would send me packing with the divorce papers. So don't want to do that.
Yeah, Happy wife, happy life. I know
100%.
that too well. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Actually, calculated, it's like came up with around 4 hours in total per episode, and I've been doing 2 or 3 a week on average. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a lot of work, but again, I get a lot of ROI. I get a lot of bang for buck out of it.
Absolutely.
So and I never promise I'm going to keep doing it forever. Maybe me and you'll flip one day. You'll start doing stuff, and I'll start doing other things too. If RHMax disappears and buys his own island at some point, and I want everyone to be like, okay, he did enough. He did enough. He put the work in. He did enough.
You paved the way for the next person to start. Yeah, there you go.
The next year, there you go. Anyways,
well, I don't know if I've said this too many times on stream, but I think I've said it before, at least on our channel. There will be a time where people will be like, kinetics who? And I'm looking forward to that time. And I'm looking at about a 2-year window on that. So we'll see. I felt compelled like you to do something. Well, you know what? I just think that the talent and the number of people streaming will make it unnecessary for me to be a public figure within HEX at some point in time. The small niche within our community that I feel like I do fill is that there's not a lot of people, at least not talking about legitimate financial products in the way that the finance markets work. And so I think I'd like to think of myself as the guy that can help our community bridge that a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's so, and it's almost cliche at this point to say that our community has so many people talented, so many different directions. The diversity of like people who are able to come in and talk about, come from traditional finance, or come from the dev side, or come from just the willingness to do what it takes for financial freedom side, that is coming, the spirituality aspect, the Scivive and Fix the World with SJ and everything too. It's just this whole amazing confluence of people who, they're in it to win it. And, we found the best founder in the world. We don't need anything else on the ecosystem wise, and the products being built, Maximus Heater, all these things that are just, it just starts. I was watching, I started watching one of the 8-hour streams of RH a couple days ago, and this morning I was watching a segment, and somebody actually did the what do you call it, the timeline. They did like the tagging and stuff like that. So I flipped to one of them, and then I heard him say, oh, did I tweet it? Oh, I didn't tweet it out. Let me tweet this out to my 6K followers. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh my God, like 6K?
We've come a
Is
long
that what
way.
you had 5 years ago? That's like, it's crazy. And, I mean, today we think that, the average streamer has 5 or 6K, stuff like that. Let alone RH with 180, 200K, whatever it is. But it just shows you how far we've came. And he didn't even start doing HEX till a couple years later. So it's crazy, man. Like when you zoom out and look at what our community's done and all the stuff that's going on, and again, you can I don't want to keep saying like, oh, we're early and all this stuff, but if you zoom out, we still are early in a lot of these activities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see a lot of the stuff that it isn't history repeating, but it does rhyme. But we look like early Bitcoin adopters. We look like early, look at what the things that we're accomplishing and the things we're trying to build. And as a community, how we are so strong. This is what the Bitcoin community looked like, almost 10 years ago. So I think we are very early. I think you're right. And like I said, we've got, better streamers coming in. And by the way, I just wanted to throw a shout out to you, man. Probably the best show prep of any show that I've ever been on, and very professional. And I appreciate you doing that, man. That's awesome. I think that's just a testament of the quality of work you do and where you're going to take your stream. So I appreciate you being part of this community, because I know you'll do more than DS ever did. I think a Discourse Syndicate will probably always be here as a community stream for different voices. But I think that, the only benefit we really have is we were the early adopters. We were one of the first 3 real channels streaming in the HEX community. So thanks for coming along.
No, I appreciate it. It's I don't know, it's just natural to me. Like I tell people, they talk about a style of streaming and stuff, and I'm just like, to me, it's just another project. It's just, whether it's a coding project or whether it's outdoor project or whatever it is, it's a project. I figure out how to do it. I try to make it as frictionless as possible. I try to, level up each time with it and make sure it's professional, and like people are getting the information they're looking for out of the product. So to me, it's natural, but it's I always appreciate the compliments because it is a lot of
you're
work.
doing a great job, man.
It feels
you're
like play
it
to me.
there. Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the Naval quote of like, find something that feels like play to you but looks like work to others. Like, this is one of those things. It's great.
I love it. I wish this is all I was doing, quite honestly. But the entrepreneur inside of me just won't let the new ideas pass by without jumping on them. That's my only problem. And I wouldn't call it shiny object syndrome because I'm pretty good at saying, I've become pretty good over the years at saying no to new opportunities as they come to me. But there's some things I've seen come across my plate over the last 2 years that are going to help Hexicans and going to help Hex in the eyes of the public. And so I just want to be part of those things. And then whether my name lives on into infamy or not, I don't care. It's not really a big deal as long as I feel like I've done the best that I can to make this happen.
Absolutely.
David
Great
James,
segue.
good to see you.
Yeah, David James. What's happening, man? Great segue too into just I'm sure a lot of people know you, but maybe don't know your background or your story as much. Can you just go through a little bit of how'd you get into crypto? How'd you find RH? What kind of project? How have you seen yourself and your involvement evolve in the community in the last few years? And how'd you come up with your name, Kinetics? I'm curious about that too.
Well, so I'll start with the name. I haven't discussed it a whole lot with a lot of other people, but kinetics is just, KNTX is obviously kinetics without any of the vowels in it. And there was a time in my life when I went to a lot of raves and I did a lot of breakdancing, and I considered myself a grapher or a graffiti artist. So when you're graphing something, it's easier to throw up 4 letters than it is, 7, 8 letters up onto something, depending on how you spell it. And so it was just easier for me to throw up 4 letters, and it just kind of stuck with me. And it ended up becoming a gamer tag because I used to game quite a bit too. And so it just kind of stuck with me. And when you get into crypto, you don't really use your real name. And I think it's kind of foolish not to use your real name. Honestly, the more I live this through, the more people know my name. It's not a big deal to me, especially as I've been public as CEO of some of these companies that we're running. But when you come into the semi-anonymous world of crypto influencer streaming, I was like, hey, I already have a name. I'll just go with that name. I already have an avatar on my YouTube, so we'll just use that. But I actually found Bitcoin. I didn't personally find Bitcoin, but a computer programmer that I went to college with, reached out to me, and he was like, hey, man, I think we had just started talking on... it was like the end of MySpace, and we were talking on Facebook. And I've had my original Facebook account was back when you had to be a college student. So I was in college at the time when you had to have a college email to be part of Facebook. Yeah. And he and I stayed in contact. And then years later, I ended up deleting it. I had a bunch of girls from my past that didn't need to be contacting me as I was getting married. So my wife and I decided we'll have one joint Facebook that the family can share, put photos of the kids and stuff with, but we'll get rid of all of the old Facebook with all the old baggage that comes with prior engagement, so to speak. And so before I got rid of that, he reached out to me. He's like, dude, you got to check this thing out. Cause he and I were pretty good buddies, and he had messaged me back before instant messenger worked the way it did. And he said, just throw $200 at this. And I was making, a couple grand almost a week as a bartender. I was doing really well, had it in cash. I was like, hey, don't need it for the bills. Let me go figure this thing out. And then I started digging into it, and I'm like, no, I'm not wiring hundreds of dollars. And back then that was a big deal to me, hundreds of dollars. Funny to look at. Yeah, it's funny to look at the paradigm shift over the last few years, but hundreds of dollars. Like, it was so much. I'm not sending that to some Magic the Gathering online exchange. No way. What the hell would I, to some Magic the Gathering card game exchange over in Japan? And then hopefully I get my balance, and then trying to figure out how to take it off of the platform and put it into your own wallet. Back then, wallets were not as easy as they are now. They were not user friendly. I think I made the comment yesterday that I don't even believe that they were BIP39 capable yet at that point in time. So dealing with all of and so I fell out of it. I said, you know what, screw this thing, forget it. That's really cool, novel idea, not a big, that's great for him. Fast forward to 2016, so we're 6 years later. and I'm listening to Free Talk Live. I think I was doing some yard work. I was doing some yard work for my parents on one of their rentals or something like that, and listening to Free Talk Live, the AM station that's radio syndicated across the United States. I think they broadcast out of New Hampshire, and they started talking about this new, better Bitcoin that is just as immutable, still peer to peer, but it's anonymous, called Monero, and they're just launching. It's 5 cents to get Monero, and this is late 2016. And I was like, oh, I should probably get into that. Oh, that kind of reminds me of that Bitcoin thing that digital money thing, that magic internet money that my buddy told me about. And I didn't buy anything in 2016. And then part of me kind of kicks myself for not ever buying any Monero. But 2017,
everything works the way it's supposed to. Yeah, that's what.
You know what? I realize that now as I've gotten older, the timing. I couldn't have trusted myself with that kind of wealth even back in 2017. Quite honestly, yeah. I don't know what turn for the worse my life would have taken, but I don't think I was emotionally or spiritually mature enough to handle that kind of money back then. Quite honestly, I was still on my journey of learning, financial products and how finances can really help you, and learning more about just the financial sector as a whole. That journey had just began and really hadn't kicked off yet, and I'm not sure I would have gone down that road had I gotten that kind of life-changing wealth that early. But 2017 comes, I bought some Bitcoin, bought some Ethereum. Those were the two big boys, big bad boys out there, other than Litecoin. And I thought it was, even I, with as little as I knew, didn't think Litecoin was a legit thing. And so I was looking for yield. Before HEX was ever a thing, I was looking for yield. And I thought, oh, hey, look at what all these influencers are talking about. They're all talking about this BitConnect and this, 1% a day and this high yield interest platform. And I'm like, hey, no other coin is really offering that, but BitConnect is. And I had a bunch of it off the exchange too, and I had it in the QT, the QT wallet that you put all your master node staking in there and earning rewards and things on it. And I ended up losing 50 grand, and I call it tuition. But before I got to that point, I watched it go from like 16 cents in BitConnect all the way up to $400. And I was like, man, that was huge gains. It was number 3 on the market cap for, a couple months.
It was.
Well, I was watching every influencer possible. I wanted to get a little bit of this guy's idea, that guy's idea, this guy's idea. All of a sudden, this guy that's never monetized his channel and isn't shilling referral links for anything, Richard Hart, pops up. And I'm like, oh, come on. I said, what does this guy know? This guy dresses like a clown. I had studied like the Pickup Podcast and the Art of Charm and those guys that came after Mystery after the early 2000s. And, I had listened to some of those podcasts and knew a little bit about the community. And that's the first thing that struck my mind with Richard Hart. I was like, this guy comes from the Peacock Mystery Method community. He's a pickup artist. Yeah, gigolo,
He always reminds me of the Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo, like that kind of like guy in that scene, at first at least.
Come on, Richard Hart. We all know where you really made your money. You were hanging out with a lot of really wealthy widows, weren't you? Wealthy widows. That's where you made your money, isn't it? Anyway, so I loved what he was saying and hated him all at the same time because it resonated with me as fact. Like, this guy's got empirical data. Like, this all makes sense. Like, everything he's saying, about all these different platforms, these scams, these other coins. And I'm like, but the shitty thing is I'm in all of these things. Like, he's got to be wrong. I like really, really wanted him to be wrong. And so, come the end of 2017, early 2018, all went to, I wouldn't say zero, but it wasn't worth what it was. And, those BitConnect coins that I had in that QT wallet they were still gaining me at that point in time more BitConnect. But when it's worthless and you don't even have an exchange to sell it on, there's not much you can do with it.
Thanks, Texas.
Following him. Yeah, right.
Funny enough,
they weren't the only ones that sent a cease and desist letter. I think North Carolina was another one too, but it didn't matter. It was tuition. I had a very, very loving and understanding wife, and she's like, well, we just lost our life savings. I guess that'll teach you not to chase that easy money. And part of me was like, yeah, she's right. And the other part of me is like, no, I knew that this was going to be the new wave of money or a new asset class that just really hadn't taken shape or formed the way it was going to in the future. And so I knew that there was still outsized gains to be had here. So I kept listening to Richard. Didn't invest. I tried a little bit of margin trading. I lost probably $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, but I mean, Bitcoin was, 4, 5, 6 grand at the time when I tried some margin trading. And so, so I say I lost $1,000, but if I just put it in Bitcoin and left it there, it would have been 20x times that, probably would have been 20 grand. But, that's another lesson learned. And all while I'm listening to Richard, I'm like, yeah, he's right. He kept saying, don't trade. And I was like, I got to try to find some yield somewhere here, try to make some of that back. I just kept listening to him, talked about the CFD token, thought it was a cool idea. If you're going to do proof of work, that it be a functional proof of work that actually solves real world use cases. Yep. And decided to pivot to Bitcoin HEX and then later drop Bitcoin from the name. And I just followed him the whole time. And I said, you know what, let's do this. This is legit. This is what I was looking for in BitConnect, quite honestly. I was looking for yield. Bitcoin didn't provide that just by holding it itself. And it looks like this coin is going to do something. And it's the first time I'd seen anything like that outside of the master coins. So the master node coins. There's a lot of guys in our community. I won't name them out unless they let me. But there's a lot of guys in our community that I was in the same deep, dark alleys of the master node communities during the bear market, just trying to look for something that looked legit. And, all of them were on Discord and they all scammed out and they all had bots on Discord and none of them came to fruition to really be representative of anything of real value. I just kept watching this guy. And as he came along, I said, I'm getting ready. So I started stacking some sats and getting ready for, the Bitcoin free claim. And then when he decided to do the adoption amplifier, I'm like, yes, now I can put not have to go via Bitcoin claiming. I can actually buy into it. I can DCA into it. Big Mac meals, please. That's right.
From Jim Rat.
I love it. Tinder Rat Crypto. I love it. That's awesome. So that's how I got into HEX. And he said, don't FOMO in day one. And I said, I know I didn't FOMO in with even a majority of my stack, but I was like, I have to do something first. I have to participate in some way. So I did 0.1 ETH in the adoption amplifier on December 2nd.
You say 0.1 ETH?
0.1 ETH. That was like 12,000 HEX or something like that.
What's the ring to that one? Oh, 0.1. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was like 12 grand or 12,500 HEX or something. I could probably go back and look at it.
Well, I'm going to make you feel not as bad because I have a friend who I passively every once in a while try to get him to HEX, try to get him PulseChain, all this stuff. And he's got like hundreds of ETH. And, during PulseChain sacrifice and things, I was like, come on, man, I know you got plenty of ETH. What are you going to do with ETH? He's like, oh, I love my ETH, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, but what if you just put a little bit into it, 10% or something, like you got plenty of it. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And he eventually settled on putting 1 ETH in, one out of hundreds, 1 ETH. Struggle is real.
That's
anyway,
right.
I'm gonna make you feel better.
We need guys with lots of ETH and lots of economic energy to come buy our cheap pulse bags when they first come out. So we need guys like him to buy more, to buy higher later. Yeah, we need that. So we're okay with that.
He loves his ETH. He loves his ETH. I love ETH too.
You know what? Me too. I do too.
Not as much.
Yeah, it's not the outsized opportunity that you get with the HEX and the RH ecosystem.
Exactly. And the thing he saw what HEX did, I showed him. Look, the previous founder did all this stuff. Like, no brainer, right? Okay, I'll put 1 ETH. 1 ETH.
And the community is 100 times larger than it was when HEX was launched, and they're gonna ape into the next project that he does, having a track record. I think a lot of people discount that, and I haven't talked about this enough, I don't think myself, but there's a track record already that we 100% uptime, made a lot of millionaires. He's not starting from a net zero like he was with HEX. We've got a lot of things going for us already. And there's a lot of people that foo-fooed him at the beginning that are on board now. There's some pretty big names out there in the influencer groups that have YOLO'd into the PulseChain sacrifice.
I've heard.
So we can't forget that.
Isn't I heard something about Ivan on Tech. Is there an interview happening with Richard and Ivan on Tech? Yeah.
Yeah. So Ivan on Tech and Richard, I think they're buddies. I don't know the intimate. I'm about as close as, well, I shouldn't say me, but me and some of the other streamers are in the Hex community are about as close to the Richard Hart inner circle as you can get without being like his boys he hangs with all the time. And there's still not a lot of information that gets shared between us. There really is not. So only useful information that he sees fit for us to have, at our disposal. So there's nothing, there's no deep dark secrets that we're learning about Richard Hart that we're just not sharing with anybody. There's some personal things we've discussed, and there's some things that have been asked to stay, remain quiet on. But for the most part, he's just smart. He just doesn't, instead of trusting people, he just doesn't tell you.
Yeah, I could see that. It's funny. I kind of get the analogy of like, how the government wants to leak something. They'll like tell. They won't say it directly. If they want to influence in a way, they'll tell someone else, and it'll get leaked. And like, oh well, it's leaked now. I guess everyone knows. It's like you guys are like maybe Richard leaks stuff to you sometime just because maybe he doesn't want to say it, but he wants to influence something in a direction. He's like, okay, let me tell Kinetics and the guys like about this, and then I didn't say it, but they said it.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things I won't specifically call them out, but there are a few things I've seen that I haven't said anything about. I'm pretty tight-lipped about a lot of the things that we're working on behind the scenes, but there's a few things that have been alluded to that kind of came out later, and I'm like, yeah, I know exactly where that came from. So
yeah, that's always fun to see something where, okay, I guess we can talk about it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about documentary then. Like, as being the person who knows everything about it and can tell us all the information and the timeline.
Day to day, baby. Day to day over here.
Well, maybe that's a good way to frame it too. Like, maybe if you could tell everyone, I don't know, maybe a lot of people think you're closer to it than you are, or vice versa. But like, how involved are you in the process? Like, I guess what has been your role for?
I was a lot more involved. Yeah, I was a lot more involved earlier on. Towards the end, cutting, towards finishing up the filming itself and going into the editing and looking at distribution and sales. Not so much. That's not my industry. It's not my expertise. They're smarter. They're smart enough to not rely on me for those things. But when it came to coordinating this hexakin behind the scene or that hexakin in this location, and can we get these people together, I was very, very involved actually. So, and that was a lot of fun. It was really cool to kind of, be working on something that's going to benefit the hexagons behind the scenes, even if you weren't getting any kind of recognition for it. But we were very involved, especially me and RG3. Big K had a really big role, not just as a producer, but like putting things together and some really cool content ideas. Rackham, I got to give the guy credit. He did a lot for the movie. Toby-Wan Kenobi did a lot for the movie. So thanks to those guys, they dragged us across the finish line with what was needed on resources and things of that nature for additional things we didn't think we were going to go for at first. Can I say anything about that? Let's just say there's award shows that we're trying to qualify for, and you need a PR campaign for that. And some of those guys really, really helped in those regards. So that's probably the most I should say about that.
Award show, yeah. I wanted to ask too. I know you tweeted about a premiere in August. What was that about? I didn't quite understand what that was.
So the directors reached out to RG and I and said, "Hey, we're gonna watch the movie. You want to see the full final cut on it?" And we were like, "Of course we do." So we had to make sure that we only had a certain amount of people to continue qualifying for some of these award shows. Only so many people can be at the theater at the time of viewing. So since RG has a very prominent role in the film itself, he invited some really close friends of the family with him, as well as his family. And be quite honest, my wife's like, I don't care, whatever, go have fun. So I just went myself. She doesn't care anything about crypto. She is a dedicated, hardworking mom, loves our family, loves God, and those are the only things that matter to her in this life. So when it comes to money and crypto, she could give up two rats about it. We could live poor, and as long as we were a close family, she'd be extremely, extremely happy. So it helps to have actually that side of our family that keeps me very, very grounded. But You know me. I wanted to see that film. Like, I've been working on this for almost a year. Like, yes, I want to see this film. And so we went and checked it out. We didn't get to see it with the final score. They're like a 40-piece orchestra is what the final score is going to be made. I mean, you want to talk about, and just the placer music that they put in there gave you the feels. I can't imagine what a 40-piece orchestra with the background that this individual has in making film scores is going to do for this film. So I think it'll just take it another level or two up. But yeah, man, it was great. It was one thing I will tell all the Hexkins out there: if you guys were expecting a puff piece and a shill fest for Hex, you will not be getting that in this. This shows the peaks and the valleys of Hex, and it gives real objective thought and a real objective look at not just the coin, but also the founder. And you guys are a lot of you guys are gonna be really upset that it wasn't enough or wasn't friendly enough, but it needed to be objective, and it needed to really scrutinize the project, and it needed to scrutinize our founder. And take every single one of the Richard Hart debates leading up over the last 2.5, 3 years, all the way up to the point of this movie. You could roll them all together, and the aggregate of them together is not as tough on Richard Hart as this movie is. So,
I always think it's weird when people don't want to hear criticism or even entertain it, or it's just like, that's part of the story. That's how these things. You can't just tell everyone
it makes
he's
it entertaining.
all this nice guy, and then they go Google him and they see all this other stuff. No, you want to get it all out on the table and be like, this is
100%.
From fixing air conditioners to lawyers to billionaire to Gucci. You want to see everything, no matter what it's like.
100%.
And I'm so glad that the integrity of film is like that.
I hate to say, I hate to use a fictional movie like 8 Mile, but at the very end, when you throw all your dirty laundry out on the table first, as Eminem does in 8 Mile at the very end, what does Quincy or whatever his name is have to come back at you with? You already aired out all your dirty laundry. It's already on the table. Like, it's already been addressed. Let's move on to the next thing. But I think if 1 billion people see this film, I believe at least 10% of the people will invest in Hex. I really do. And I think ultimately, and I actually think that's very conservative. I think more than that will actually want to look into it and want to learn more about it, because it makes a very compelling case. And they did this through the art and science of storytelling. And that's what's amazing, is it's very compelling to want to drag out of you this curiosity about finding more. Where do I find more about this Hex? Where do I find more about Richard Hart? So I think the SEO and the Google searches are going to go through the roof. We looked at so if you look at the documentary Trust No One about the Quadriga CX guy and him just supposedly dying overseas, and no one knows for sure if he just ran off with the money, or $160 million, I think, is what Quadriga CX ran off with. If you look at that, they went from like almost no Google searches to like 20,000 on the day of release, and it sustained through weeks. Can you imagine 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 hex.com SEO searches on Google and Richard Hart searches? I think it's to me, it's the most bullish fundamental out there. Without looking at lines on a chart, I think it's the most bullish fundamental of all of crypto, as far as it as an indicator is concerned.
Well, that's, I went back. I'm totally agree with this. Extremely bullish for Hex, for PulseChain, for the people getting into Richard Hart, seeing what he's about, understanding the mission he's on, and financial freedom. One of the most important things I could even imagine that we could put together to make that happen. When I talk to people about it, I get various opinions though. Some people, I don't think it's going to matter that much. Get a lot of comments. The average person is not going to care. Nobody watches crypto documentaries, things like that. How would you, I guess, is there anything to those type of criticisms of the film, or do you think that just the overall power of this is just going to like magnify Richard so much that everyone outside of crypto is going to be interested no matter what? Like, how do you think about that?
I don't measure it in hey, nobody watches crypto documentaries. I look at it as, is this a net positive? Are more eyes going to see this? Even if it's not 1 billion eyes, if only 100 people see this, do you not think that that's a net positive to Hex? Is that not 100 people that may not have seen Hex or maybe see Hex years down the road, but we saved them a couple years and it saved their financial future? So I just look at it as more of a net positive. Is it a net positive? It may not help as much as everyone thinks, but it'll help more than it won't. So
yeah, I mean, there's after this been filming and stuff for what, a year or two now. I think there's a lot of high expectations, or I guess, should we have expectations of a documentary? I don't know. Is that part of the sacrifice for the documentary?
I'll tell you what, it's funny because they didn't even use 1/100th of the amount of film footage they got. It was very much set up in a way that this could continue on. This doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the story. The beginning maybe, but not necessarily the end of the story. So there's a lot of opportunity for ongoing eyeballs going forward. So I think it's if you watch it, and when you guys get to, it is next level production, in my opinion. It's not it doesn't come across as a student film. It's some guys from Columbia grabbed some cameras and went to work. No. It is definitely worthy of coming from a 5-time Emmy award-winning film crew as they are. So it's high level production.
Well, that's an angle that I haven't thought of either. Like, is this the first of a few documentaries, or the first of the introduction and then a docu-series, because we got so much footage. Wow.
A lot of different directions. That's to be seen. Whoever picks up the film may want to do ongoing, may want to turn it into a docu-series, may want to do a bunch of mini series or whatever it may be. We're pretty open to the ideas. I don't know a lot of that right now, Connor. And I couldn't tell you who the top runner for picking up the film is right now. I haven't, over the last 2 weeks, I haven't really, haven't reached out to them. I know they're busy. So I haven't really picked up on that. My curiosity is not killing me. I know they're going to do the best for getting the most eyeballs on it. So we had 2 objectives that we could choose from when we first. So me, Big K, and RG sat down with the directors at a really nice steakhouse before we even got started, before we decided to come on, and they were pitching the idea on us. And we think there's something here. We think this could be something great. And having a founder like this that's so flamboyant and over the top is really like, you have this main center character that this whole piece can gravitate around. Like, we really think that we have something that will be seen and can be award-winning. And he said, but we need to know, if you guys get on board, what would be your biggest objective? Would you want to maximize how much money you can make off of this? Or would you rather maximize the amount of exposure to HEX and the amount of eyes that see that Richard Hart and HEX? And it was a hands down for all 3 of us, like, eyes, exposure. Like, definitely. I believe even if us 3 here at the table aren't wealthy yet, we will be, thanks to HEX. And, the more eyes that see it, the more likely that is to happen. And it'd be way more profitable than anything we would ever make off the movie anyway. So we just knew that, as a service to the community, as well as a service to our own crypto holdings, that getting the maximum number of eyes on this film was by far and away the biggest priority since the very beginning.
And as far as distributors go, like, who are some of the ones that would be, everyone says Netflix, everyone wants Netflix, don't know how practical Netflix is, but like, who are some of the distributors? People are kind of guessing, like, which ones would
so my next comment is purely speculative and is purely opinion, and not necessarily the opinion of the film crew or anyone else involved. But I think the story is dynamic and it's appealing and it's entertaining, that I don't think if any of these distribution companies and or over the top, which is the streaming companies, over the top just is what the actual industry term is for the Netflix and Hulu's and Prime Video of the world. But there's also the option for distribution to theaters and things of that nature as well, so there's and it depends on what the different players really want to do with this, and the offer they come to the table with. But I think it's good enough to be top tier, any of them, personally. And I'm not just saying that because I'm involved with it and that's what I want to see. Yeah, obviously my hope is there, but like I said, the quality of the movie itself and the content within the movie and how entertaining it is and how objective it is, seeing, having that conflict, that rife between one side saying it's a scam and the other saying it made me millions. So I think it's super compelling, and I don't see any reason why there's not a single company out there that isn't interested in picking this up.
Do you think we 10x holders? We get to 1 million holders with the documentary?
Oh, I think that'd be easy. So, well, technically, what do we have? 300,000 stakers. I haven't checked the numbers as of late. And let's imagine the average user has 3 wallets. So there's 100,000 stakers. We 10x the amount of stakers to 1 million. We got to what, almost $300 billion market cap with 100,000 potential holders. So you 10x that, yeah, I think we got something there, man. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think we're early. You got a product market fit, immutable code, 100% uptime, walled garden. We got gatekeeping from the elements out there that actually allow the public to learn about the coin. And as all of these things play to our strengths, it's just a matter of time. And that T-share rate keeps going up every day. So yeah, I think we could see $1 trillion market cap on the next bull run with HEX. I could be wrong, but I think it's possible.
Well, that's the answer to that question, part of it. Do you think that, I guess, what is the over-under for the documentary coming out around the same time as PulseChain, before PulseChain, after PulseChain? I guess, what are the pros and cons, and what do you speculate would happen around that?
Yeah, and so I just want to qualify this statement by saying I have no idea when PulseChain is coming out. I really don't have any idea when the movie's coming out, because the sales and distribution processes take a lot longer than people would like. It's just normal everyday business doesn't move at the speed of lightning. It's not immutable code that you just run and execute the code and it happens. So I think both of them are going to take a while to hit the market. But my feeling, my gut instinct is that the movie will be first, then the coin. And I don't think Richard's trying to time that. I think Richard has said many times, timing is great, but it's better to release a finished product than it is to try to time the market.
Okay.
That is true. Astro 369. X can go to whatever number it needs to blow your mind. 100% true.
Just scrolling through chat for a second. No,
I think I'm being conservative with a $1 trillion market cap. If you got 100,000 stakers and you've got, and you've got a $300 billion market cap, add one more zero, a 10x, that's actually 3 trillion. So just throwing out there. Cap. If the amount of new users is correlated to the market cap, which I think we can make a very strong case that is with any crypto.
Well, if that's what HEX is going to do, how do you think PulseChain, PulseX plays into that?
I think it takes longer than you think. I think too many people are going to dump right away. I think too many people have waited too long with money they couldn't afford to lose, that they sacrificed for, hoping it would be here in 6 months. And here we are over a year and still no release of PulseChain. And I think you're going to see a deeper valley of dumpers than you ever thought was possible when this network first goes live. But again, I think that's opportunity. So there's a lot of people that didn't get a sacrifice that want those PulseChain coins. And I think this gives them an opportunity to come in and buy early and really snatch that price back up pretty quick. And I still think, just looking at it's, in my opinion, you got a better base than Ethereum did when they launched. You've got a bigger community that's waiting for this to happen. But you also have to factor in that this community has seen, even though it's a bigger community than Ethereum started with, you still have to factor in the fact that, hey, we've seen how many ETH killers come out to compete against Ethereum. And obviously none of them have really stole a lion's share of the market share away from Ethereum. That they have that first mover advantage. But I think there are some talking points and some marketing efforts, and the community wants this so bad that I think it will take adoption faster than most of those other crap ghost chains that have come out since the launch of Ethereum. But I think it's going to take some time. It still took Ethereum 2 years to go 10,000x. Took Bitcoin Bitcoin 10,000x. It took 2 years for that to happen. So, or 3 years to happen. So I think it'll take a little bit of time. And so I hope you guys aren't paper handed out there. I hope you guys aren't willing to sell your PulseChain for pennies on the dollar what it's really worth here in the next couple runs.
Well, I think it's one way you can make a case for there not being a huge dump of PulseChain after launch, is because I could speculate there's just as many people out there who want to dump it all and get their money back and get whatever it is, and then the same amount of people who want to scoop it up too, who have the dry powder.
I think the key between those two factors, though, because I think you've got both camps, and we both know that they exist. I don't think there's just any disputing that both those camps exist. How easy is it going to be able to bridge in economic energy? How easy is it going to be to bridge out economic energy? I don't know what the bridge is going to look like yet. I mean, we don't have a lot of details on these things, but we know how bridges work for the most part. But quite honestly, I think it's almost better, at least for the start of the project, for us to have a diode that helps that new economic energy come in. It makes it harder for old economic energy to go out across the bridge. So I don't know.
The bridge is going to be super interesting.
Yep.
Like who's going to be bridging it? That's, and there's so many questions. What's the OA going to do? Are they going to put up liquidity in certain ways to make parity happen? I've heard like both sides of like very good arguments on that too. Again, just scrolling through. I had a couple questions here.
I think the OA would do it. I think the OA would help provide liquidity and ratios to make it a 1-to-1 as soon as possible, given it doesn't cut its legs out from underneath itself. It doesn't lose too much financial mass in order to do that. Because that's the only thing that worries me about that is you blow your wad right at the beginning to make sure you hit parity. Well, does it hold? Do you have enough financial energy to hold that pairing, to hold that ratio? And if you do, for how long? So it's hard to know 100%. There's no better arbitrager out there than the free market. My dad and I were talking earlier today, and he said that, and we weren't talking crypto, but he said, there is no better arbiter out there to arbitrage between these opportunities than the free market. And he went back to talking about how I think it was Charlie Munger that actually said that the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Yeah. And I think that's true. And so as long as the OA is smart about the way it's game theory these things out and doesn't lose all of its economic energy trying to put it to parity, I think that we will see it.
The OA hasn't made any dummy moves yet, as far as I can see. So,
yep, 100%.
Pete asked, do you feel like the walled garden of HEX is still strong? Some people within the HEX community have already started new coins. Have we lost momentum and hype?
I don't think so. I think the whole market has lost hype and momentum for now. I mean, it's a bear market. I think having something that did so well the previous bull market, that has a track record, that has a history. The OA didn't rug, didn't sell the coin to zero. A lot of people did very, very well. There's a track record. There's new infrastructure and new projects being built on top of it. I think that momentum and hype will come back to HEX, and as well as the whole Richard Hart ecosystem, just having that track record. So yeah, I do. I think, and when we speak to the walled garden, I get that some people in the HEX community have started new coins, but none of them have. First of all, HEX has the first mover advantage of yield producing crypto, immutable yield producing crypto. Second of all, these other mechanisms out there that some of the other community members have started with new coins with some kind of yield generation with your coins, some kind of staking mechanism, is still not the same mathematics as HEX. And I think they'll do well, but I don't think they'll do as well as HEX in the long run. So I think that walled garden with HEX being open to view but not open license for you to replicate will actually help HEX carry on into the next, especially as crypto becomes more regulated. It's going to be a lot easier for whatever entity actually owns the HEX trademarks and copyrights to come forward and protect its brand.
Absolutely. What's up, Bran? Thanks for coming, man. Always good to see you.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's
heart of gold. Heart of gold.
Yeah, it's always fun to when we have our local meetups and stuff. It's always fun to see Bran and hang out and that's good stuff going on. Yeah, speaking of that too, yeah, Jerry wanted to ask about as far as RG3's work on K Street, talking to representatives. It's something we can do, you know, in our local states that can help with that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's amazing, you guys. If you'll write your congressmen and representatives, because I think the next fight really needs to be at the federal level. But if you guys can hold your state legislation and your representatives within your state accountable, it goes a long way. But the best way to do that, guys, is don't hit their emails. That's what I was just gonna say. Do not hit their emails. For every one handwritten letter that hits their office, it's equivalent, and we got this from the PACs. So we're working with some crypto PACs, you know, some action committees. Anyway, they say for every one handwritten letter, it wipes out like 10,000 emails the other direction, because someone actually took the time to handwrite a letter and say, hey, I am your constituent. This isn't just a form letter that we're trying to drown you in a million of these things signed. Like, this is how me and my family and my friends and the people around me really feel about this issue. They just take it so much more serious. So if you guys are going to go pro crypto with your representatives, by all means, guys, do it with handwritten letters. I know it's hard to go back old school. It's hard to find these writing utensils, you know, that you can put down on paper and put in these envelopes and send them off, but it'll be worth it.
Teach kids how to write in school these days?
I don't. Well, my kids go to a private school, so they do, but I don't think the public school does anymore. I think they just give them a laptop and say, go to town.
Oh, God. I got a whole spiel on kids and electronic devices and just like,
well,
every time I see a kid like looking down at a phone and walking, I'm just, you know, they're like 3 years old.
Yeah.
What is your life going to become? Like, how useful are you going to be as a person when you can't even master like walking with 2 feet in front of you without looking at a screen?
I know.
Crazy.
So I actually have I'm split on that actually. So when it comes to kids and technology, it's hard to find that line even with my own kids, because number one, you don't want their whole lives to revolve around, you know, digital electronics and not being able to hold a real conversation when you're face to face with others and actually doing business and commerce face to face. But at the same time, I feel like you're kneecapping your kids by not letting them participate in the electronics and understand, because that's the way of the future, and that's the way that communications and things are going to get done. So those who don't let their kids have anything, I'm like, I think you're handicapping your kids' success in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think a balance of you know, showing them how to use technology and things, but them not, you know, carrying a phone around the house with them, you know, 24/7. I think there's a line to strike there for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of gray area there. It's a tough one. I have 4 kids, and so even in our own household, it's like, do we draw the line here, or is this the time to use it?
Right. I want to talk a little bit about, you know, as far as financial products and HEX and stuff goes. I've been in contact. I talked a little bit about maybe one day Rockadollar will come on the stream. We'll have a conversation too.
We talked about I tried to reach out to him.
Yeah, same. They seem to be busy right now, but maybe one day we'll get some more Hexagon exposure there too. But just as far as you know, MCA, what you're doing as far as investing in crypto and retirement, things like that. What about what about HEX, you know, motivated you to get involved in the different products in the traditional finance world? And second, like, what are the options for people who want to, you know, use an IRA or 401k or just investments and trusts and things like that? How can they invest in a long term with HEX and stuff? Yeah,
so the vehicle, the traditional tax deferred vehicles like the IRAs and the 401ks and the 537Bs and whatever else that you know are out there for, and even some of these pension funds. That's why we created the HEX Investment Trust, because we know there's trillions of dollars in the financial market in stocks, bonds, equities, you know, And so as a result, we needed some way to get those people, my mom, my dad, that will never handle their own keys, don't care to handle their own keys. But hey, I have a 401k. And if you guys have something that I can invest in HEX with outside of, having to actually be responsible for my own crypto, by all means, I'll be happy to go into that. So that's part of the reason. And I think, obviously thanks Astro 369. Appreciate you, brother. I think the argument right now from the crypto community is the grayscale Bitcoin trust is bad. Look at this negative, this discount that it's trading for right now. Well, again, I go back to the lens of, is this a net positive or a net negative? And I still think the grayscale Bitcoin trust
Rugged? Or is it me?
was by far. Are you there, brother?
Okay, I think you might have dropped for about 20 seconds there.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Sorry about that. All of a sudden I saw it spinning circles over, and our faces disappeared on that. So I apologize. So going back to the discussion with Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, I think it's been a net positive overall. Yeah, it may trade at a negative, and that's just really what that is smart traders telling you where the market's going to go. For all of you plebs out there, just follow what the smart money's doing. The guys that do this professionally for a living, that make 99% of the money off of Wall Street, and maybe you should mirror their trades. I don't know, not financial advice, may not be a good idea, but for the most part, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust has been nothing but a net positive for Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. You've got the opportunity for people with traditional legacy finance, tax deferrable vehicles, giving them the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin without having to have a self-directed IRA or self-directed 401k. And because those things can be complicated. And I think Rocket Dollar does a great job with it. And in fact, we have worked with Rocket Dollar. Rocket Dollar is the primary source of those who are participating in the HEX investment trust. If you want to do it via self-directed IRA, there are guys right now. They are the ones that their custodian went through, looked at the PPM, approved the asset as a custodian, and said, yeah, by all means, we believe that it's safe for people to invest in this product. I mean, other than the volatility of the underlying asset itself, which is HEX. So we created the HEX Investment Trust for institutional players and for mom and pops that don't want to control their own keys to be able to put their retirement funds into something that's going to outperform, or if it continues to act the way that it has over the last 3 years, is possible that it could outperform anything that's on the S&P right now, or on the NASDAQ, since that's where we would be looking to trade. But
can you kind of talk about like the process for HEX Investment Trust, for Rocket Dollar and stuff? Like how can the person who says, okay, I have a 401k, I have retirement stuff, I want to go in HEX, I want to or at least put a portion of it in HEX. How can they actually do it? Like, can you make
absolutely
it tangible for people?
Yeah, so the easiest way to do it is to go to hexinvestmenttrust.com, hexinvestmenttrust.com. Go apply, or not apply, but say I want more information. Once you're vetted and verified, that, or at least you state that you're an accredited investor, then we'll start the process of verifying and KYCing all of those things. But in the meantime, you can reach out to Rocket Dollar and let them know, hey, I'm looking at getting into this trust. Right now it's in the private stage. They're very familiar with us. It shouldn't be any issues at all. They'll walk you through what it takes to set up a self-directed IRA or 401k to invest in the HEX Investment Trust. So the first step is to reach out to the HEX Investment Trust. The next step is to reach out to Rocket Dollar, and they actually make it pretty simple to walk through. So I started the process myself because I was thinking, I've got a Roth IRA from way back in the day that I would love to be able to roll into this, as being part of the CEO of the sponsoring company of the trust company. Rocket Dollar actually suggested we recommend you don't you can put your own money into it, but not in a self-directed vehicle, especially after Peter Thiel got a lot of crap from Congress for putting all of his PayPal stock into a Roth IRA, and then it going up, the valuation, his percentage of the company ended up going to like $5 billion, and it was all 100% tax-free, and they all wanted to cry about tax the rich. So they recommended that I didn't do that, that if I were going to invest, that it just be over that's trading money over the desk trading money. So but for all of you guys out there that aren't as part of the active members of the fund, of the trust itself, yeah, Rocket Dollar makes it very simple. I think it's like $300 setup and $15 a month, something like that. And then they handle moving all the money between all the different trust companies that handle the transaction and getting KYC'd and everything else.
Yeah, you could just trade from MetaMask tax free, not a tax advisor, not financial advisor, any of that stuff. But from what I've seen, you can you just have a separate IRA MetaMask wallet account that you just don't use for anything else. You be very strict with it, but then you can just trade and buy HEX. You can get ETH and buy HEX with and stuff like that from there. So pretty amazing how easy they made it be.
Yeah, and in fact, if you've got assets in there already, they can actually help you liquidate those assets $2 and then invest into ETH and USDC and turn it into HEX and whatever else. But yeah, they'll help you actually liquidate your stocks and bonds in order to make that happen. So, and right now, I mean, everything's down. Crypto's down, stock market's down, everything's down. But now's the time. Which do you think is going to outperform the other come this next bull cycle? I don't want to get too political, but I think if the Republicans take both houses of Congress and come January 20th, they come into their new roles, usually businesses and especially equity funds really like when Republicans are there because they feel there's more sturdy or more fiscal responsibility with the monetary policy, and that there's going to be a little bit of hands off, let the businesses do their own thing and be profitable and employ people. And whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. The markets, if you look at these elections, especially the midterms, typically it'll swing back the other way financially and economically. And I think we could have a huge upswing back the other way this next 2 years. And if that's the case, where would you rather have your money, in crypto or the S&P 500? So, and the S&P 500 is not a bad investment alone, but I'd rather, instead of a 1x, 2x gain, I'd rather get a 10, 100, maybe 1,000x gain. So
yeah,
whatever you guys want.
Baby gains are out there if you want them like that.
Yep, 100%.
I think it's a good point on the Republicans in the House and the elections and stuff too. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling pretty bottomy to me, at least in the S&P right now. Crypto, we'll see. It's a little different as far as that goes, but like, a lot of people are expecting one more major event leg down. We'll see what happens with Russia. Like that could totally be a thing. But as far as like in general, there's a lot of people who were selling, rightfully so. They sold the top last November, around that time period. And there's a lot of dry powder. A lot of people haven't put the money back in yet. Yep. And they're just waiting for a few signals. And the markets seem, I don't know, we've had a lot of events in crypto and otherwise that we've given back. We've recessed a lot in the financial markets. So, and bought it. But, every time I say this too, it's not as if you don't go from the bottom of the bear to the bull. It's not a hockey stick. There will be a sideways period for a while, usually. Could we have our own bull market within the RH ecosystem that's different than the broader crypto ecosystem? Definitely, like especially PulseChain launches, whenever, then that could totally happen. But it's feeling pretty bottomy to me. It's I guess I agree. On Cabana's stream this morning, it's like if anyone's out there buying right now, especially crypto, especially HEX at these prices, I don't blame them. It seems like a much better time than it was a month or two ago. 100%.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think you guys even talked about it earlier today too on Cabana's stream. Let's say we do get a sub 1 penny. I don't think it'll last there for very long. And it just gives the people who are already looking and waiting for HEX to go back up, that are buying at these levels, a better DCA buy-in anyway. So I don't see that as a negative thing. I mean, let's be honest. Richard Hard said it himself that the price you pay for these mad gains is volatility. So just depends on what side of the trade you want to be on. You want to sell at these prices or you want to buy at these prices?
Yep. Couple questions from AK. Kinetics, when documentary Q1?
I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, I don't know 100%. I mean, it could come Q4. I mean, later this quarter. It just depends on, not just about getting a sales and distribution deal, but what kind of PR campaign, what kind of money do they want to put into marketing? How much do they believe how many eyes do they think it's going to get? So they want to delay release for when everybody's home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like there's a lot of different variables in there.
Do you think they'll want to chop it up to docuseries and that could delay it some?
I don't know.
I'm thinking like, part of me is like, man, I really don't want that to happen. But other part of me is like, what if we did RH documentary over 8-week period? Every week a new episode comes out.
I think there's an opportunity for both. Now and the film crew may castrate me for saying this later, but we've got so much content that why not have, like a big banger full-length film, like documentary that like gets people fired up one way or the other, and then drop another 8 episodes of all the material and content that didn't make it into the documentary.
If I was watching something like that, I'm trying to think, just putting myself into just anything else. If there was some documentary that came out that was like, okay, here's like, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours of like this guy's story. It's super interesting, fascinating stuff, all those things. And then they're like, also, and then, you get all excited about that. You enjoy it. You like it. You're interested. You're intrigued. And then you hear a week or two later, oh, also they're doing a docu-series to even go even further. They got so much stuff. I would be excited about it. Yes, I like that. Please do that. I would like that to happen.
Yeah, a little follow-up, a little more in-depth, a little more story around the community that follows and the people that care about whether this thing does well or doesn't. So, after watching the Trust Nobody documentary, I would have loved 8 little mini-series afterwards that went into more depth and more about the characters, the people who lost, that had their money on the exchange, or the people who made a bunch of money and pulled it off in time. Like I would have loved to have watched those little stories had they been available.
Shaking up Netflix and chill. It's going to be get rich and chill.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. I would like to see personally, but I have no idea the timeline and if this is possible. I'd love to see a big player in the OTT space coordinate a theater release and on their streaming platform, and then it be sometime around Thanksgiving and Christmas, sometime in there, because there's a lot of people that'll be home ready to watch. Personally, I think the best time I used to take when I owned my insurance agency, I used to take Christmas to actually Christmas Eve off all the way through the new year. So I'd take a whole week off. I did that on purpose. Sometimes it was 10 days, depending on where it fell in the middle of the week. But I wouldn't come back till January 2nd. And I think a lot of people, especially that own their own businesses, professionals and self-employed people, that's a great time because you're already home with the family. Be a great time to get a lot of eyes on this thing. But I don't have any idea. I'm not in the decision-making process on that, and I don't have any insider info on that I can give you guys right now.
Definitely when there's people gathered around the fireplace, that's a great time where people are in the mood, they're positive, they're interested, they have time, they're not thinking about
it's cold outside, they're not working out in the yeah.
Yes, get some hot cocoa and see big pee-pee on the TV. Not literally, figuratively. The guy who's on top of the Hummer with the license plate.
Unsavory websites. I don't think that's a documentary that we're talking about now.
It's a conversation has shifted. Segue. When Pulse launch, sir? Q4. Yeah. What do you got on when Pulse launch?
If he were timing the market, which I really doubt he is. He said, like I said in the past, even before the you probably even remember and may even be able to find the old stream when people said, "Oh, are you trying to time the bottom of the bear market when you release HEX, and he said no. It'd be great if it coincides with that, but quite honestly, it's better to have a product to release and be in the marketplace for a longer period of time than it is to try to time it. And he said that himself about HEX. I unless there's something that's changed that he's not telling us publicly, I don't see him holding off for a timing issue. I think he really will launch when the time is correct. But if you were waiting for a time period, late January would be my time period. It's typically very bullish for crypto coming out of a bear cycle into the bull. It's right after a political change of hands has happened. That uncertainty is already out of the way. It was decided months ago in the November elections, and they're taking their new positions January 20th. So if I were looking to do a timing piece, it would be the end of January of 2023. Me personally, but I have no idea where they're at in the development. I did have some idea when we were filming. I got a little bit of insider info, like, hey, you
heard about mid-May too?
Yeah, before you guys heard about mid-May, I heard about mid-May. And part of the reason I got the sniffer test on that was he was calling my film crew, hey, get on out here. And post-production was already done. So, or as far as filming, I'm sorry, not post-production, but filming was already wrapped up and done. And so if he was calling them out, it was most likely to catch him hitting that go live button on Pulse. And then we all know how that shook out. The varsity squad on the developer side said, nope, let's not do this yet. There's some things that we can do to optimize that'll be easier to do now before we launch than it is after we've launched the project. So I think he'll launch
after that.
Yeah, we all lived happily ever after. And everybody still cried about, I'm poor and PulseChain's never coming.
Yeah, it's so I guess what is the, I know there's people out there over leveraged and things like that, but like, why do you, to me, it just doesn't matter. Like I want it as an event to happen. And of course I'm excited for it, but I'm really able to temper myself of like, it doesn't matter. Like when it comes,
you don't have control over it. You guys,
what do you think? Why do you think people are so frustrated over that? I get a lot of comments. I talk about PulseChain launch. You're like, scam! It should have launched a long time ago. Richard lied to everyone. All this stuff. Where does that come from? Like, is it coming from
people are hurting?
A good place, or like, are they think they're hurting?
No, people are hurting. Yeah, I mean, that's the perception I have. That's what I'm seeing. You can see it in people's tweets. From happy-go-lucky, hey, kumbaya, we're in this together, to everyone on the community turning on themselves. I think this economic downturn, I think a lot of people are hurting, and they put in more than they can afford to really lose, and they're starting to get that fear, uncertainty, and doubt is starting to creep up in their mind that it's never going to come. And I really think that's what it is. I think it's just financial situations, quite honestly.
Yeah. A question from Golden Ticket Holder. Who's our contact MCA after my million hits a million or before? That's actually a good question. Yeah,
it is actually a really good question. So we've had over 50 people come to us that don't even have $1 million valuation in their wallet yet. And they're like, but I expect it to be, especially with Pulse and the price appreciation in the next bull run with HEX. And so they're reaching out now. Now might be the best time to do it anyway. So here's the thing. Regardless of price, regardless of what's going on with MCA right now, think about it this way. Whether you go with MCA or not, we're not holding anybody's feet to the fire. If it's for you, great. If it's not for you, great. I hope you guys find a solution that does work for you guys. It's not a hard sell. It's hey, if you believe and trust in what we're doing and you love the team that's dealt with billionaires' money, and you believe that since they've dealt with billionaires' money, that they're capable of handling your money as well, then great, come with us. If not, no big deal. But you need to get your situation set up long before you actually have a need for it. So it's your tax preparation, your legacy wealth, your legacy within your own family. These things need to be developed before you actually need them. So I'm a big believer of who you go with, no matter what. that it needs to be sooner than later if you don't already have these things set up. If you don't have a will, if you don't have trust to pass assets down to family members, if you don't have vehicles, investment vehicles outside of crypto that make you some passive income, if you don't have all your legal, if you don't have all your tax and your CPA and your accounting situations taken care of, you guys need to figure those out sooner than later. So the added benefit to that is that right now we're only offering MCA for $15K. If you go to Mountain Crypto Advisors /Hexakin, then we're offering it. The landing page, if you go to the landing page right now, you're going to see a $50,000 price on the mountaincryptoadvisors.com. If you go to mountaincryptoadvisors.com /Hexakin, it's only $15K. And we're going to try to hold that price all the way through the end of the year. So if you sign up the consultation, you'll have 365 days from the day you set up the consultation to decide if you want to go in at that price. So at least it buys you a whole year. But for now, we're doing it for only $15K to get everything set up. Unfortunately, if you guys have been watching the prices of everything out there, inflation sucks and it's hurting everything, and it's hurting even our service providers. So our prices are forced to go up for two reasons, really. Number one, the cost of doing business is going up for us as Mountain Crypto Advisors to quarterback all these situations for you. And then number two, we're building out a dedicated team, and we need some funds because up till now, we have not made, with Mountain Crypto Advisors, a single dollar off the last year. The last year, 100% of that money that we've collected has been passed through to the service providers to set things up for you guys. So Mountain Crypto Advisors has not made a dime since we opened up. So now we need to actually build out a team because we've got enough clients now that we need a dedicated team and stop borrowing people from some of these other entities that we're working with.
So what you're saying is, as long as Costco's hot dogs cost $1.50, that same price would be past Texicans.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, and I'm glad you guys brought that up. I had heard that a couple of years ago, and I had no idea because I don't have a Costco near me. And someone had told me all about it. And the dollar sodas, dollar hot dogs, man. That's a good indicator when that starts to go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when that starts to go up, that kind of gives you guys an idea how little buying power your actual dollars have.
Just them considering it, just it being, put in the papers of them considering changing the price is an indicator of, whoa, the stuff's getting out of control.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Don't discount the hot dog price. Hot dog.
Hey, there's indicators everywhere out there. That's just happens to be an actual retail or consumer index. Quite honestly, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's will be funny. Now you got me thinking like Janet Yellen's like, oh, all right, what's the Costco data? Give me the Costco data.
What's the cost of their hot dogs today? Yeah.
Yeah. What's did they were they considering another move?
Yeah. Do we need to put quantitative easing back into play? Yeah.
the whether we raise rates or not depends on the
the cost of hot dogs at Costco. Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. They do shenanigans every once in a while.
Yep.
All right. Before we wrap up, a couple of things I want to get to. Have to ask about the Ethereum forks. How do you think about them? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you wish PulseChain launched and they didn't matter? What do you think?
All the above. Of course, I love them. I mean, it's free extra energy, economic energy that's being created out of thin air for us. So absolutely, you got HEX is HEX is HEX. The code is the code is the code on all of these chains. And so free HEX, free Hedron, free Icosa, free Maximus, free Deci. I mean, anyway, without getting into the weeds on all the derivatives and everything,
it's going to take about an hour to name all the Maximus coins. Okay, and there's probably
exactly
right now. So,
do you guys not like free money? So if the proof of work miners weren't going anywhere anyway, and they were just going to go to another chain, say they chose Ethereum Classic instead of Ethereum proof of work, you don't get copies on Ethereum Classic. So I'm happy to see them go to Ethereum proof of work. I like it. I like the idea that the only thing I don't like, and this is, some people don't agree with me. Great, you can pick up a lot of HEX for cheap on Ethereum POW and Ethereum Fair right now. You can pick it up super, super cheap. But I still think the opportunity cost is too great for you guys to be bridging new financial economic energy into an untested chain that we're not sure is going to be here in a year. But we know that you're getting a copy of your HEX on the Ethereum 2.0 network on PulseChain. And I think having that copy on PulseChain is too high of an opportunity cost for you guys to be spending more money to put it into HEX on these other chains, in my opinion.
That's a good point. I want to talk about direct marketing. What are the, there's all these different ways to market HEX. You see the postcards, you see, I don't know. That's why I want to ask you too. Why don't I see more HEX ads? Are we just not able to put the ads out? Is that something that a lot of people are doing? Like, why when I go to Google or somewhere, I don't see like, go to hex.com, save your life. Stuff like that. I haven't seen that.
Well, first of all, it's very difficult to promote crypto in traditional marketing venues. Facebook, and it just finally allowed crypto. And I don't know if they put a ban on it after it started crashing again, but I know a few months ago they allowed crypto ads to start being printed. Google doesn't like them. It's very difficult to get it out there to not be censored by these ad companies, these big digital companies, the tech companies. But I think, quite honestly, Richard Hart was right. Direct mail marketing, and he said this on I have a tweet, shows 4 of the 5 screenshots because Twitter will only let you put 4 of them up, wouldn't let me put all 5, of him saying, get out there, do more marketing. Direct mail is the best way. Can't be censored. And I 100%
Twitter
agree
is
with
even
that.
gatekeeping you with the photos. They don't even want you to.
They don't even let me put the 5th screenshot of Richard saying direct mail
gatekeeping
stuff.
Is real.
It is real. Gatekeeping is real. So I think the guys like Philip and David James here in the chat and Chogosh, those guys are doing the Lord's work by having HEX postcards and getting direct mail, taking donations. And I know some good entity out there someday will take all of those addresses that donated to that cause, and we'll probably do some kind of airdrop for the people who did marketing on the behalf of everyone else in the ecosystem. So thank you guys for being willing to let go of some of your HEX gains or your financial gains, so to speak, so that you guys can help others get the same financial independence that so many of you guys have gotten. But I think that's one of the best ways to reach out to people, quite honestly. So good on them for their good work out there. I think almost 400,000 postcards have been sent. I know that they could send millions more, and they've already got the spreadsheet of all the wealthiest zip codes in certain parts of Europe and the United States right now, guys. So we've already got they have already put together all of the right places that we should be putting these postcards in people's hands that have extra money that they can be investing in these things. So if you guys think that outbound marketing, outbound reaching out to other no coiners and bringing them in is the right way to go, I think the HEX postcards is probably the best effort right now for that.
Direct mail can't be censored. Love that tweet as well from RH.
Yep.
Good stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard to not be positive and have hopes and just, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people, maybe they start planning, with what yacht they're going to buy a little bit too soon and all this stuff. We know it takes time, but just being so perma bullish on the RH ecosystem, I think that's a great way to just frame my mindset, and for good reason. It's not like this foolish hope either. It is, wow. Again, being around for a few years, I see all this stuff. I see where Richard came from the ground up. It's just, it's unreasonable to think that we would lose. It's unreasonable to think this is all just a dream. It's unreasonable.
Yep. So. Yeah, I mean, track record's there, right?
Yeah, track record. Yeah, I mean, that's something too. Like with HEX, I think a lot of people too didn't put a lot in because there wasn't a track record back then. It was like, oh, Richard Hart's going to start a coin. I like this guy, but
I almost got footed out.
Founder, so
yeah, I almost got footed out multiple times. If it wasn't for the Hexologist and then Crypto Coffee, specifically those two, and then DS coming to everybody, like giving the community a place to come on and be able to air their grievances and address the FUD and uncertainty and doubt that was facing them in their Twitter and YouTube experiences regarding HEX. Like, if it wasn't for those first 3, then I probably would have FUD'd out. So, and I owe a lot most specifically to the hexologists and coffee. Those two really made me like, okay, if we've got a guy not being paid by Richard Hart that is out there in the trenches every day giving the Hex Daily News, and then we've got Crypto Coffee getting a little higher level content, showing why this isn't a scam and why it is legitimate, and those things were the best. And then when DS came along and just gave everybody in the community a voice and a platform to hop on and air out their grievances, man, I was like, okay, I think there's enough of us here that have, and all of us were looking for the poison pill. We were all looking for, how can this thing go wrong? What is the red flag that shows us that this is a scam? And a bunch of really, really smart people came together and they all came to the same conclusion. Well, it's not. And so having them put their voices out there so early was very helpful to me.
I didn't even, just on Discord Syndicate, I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, what is Discord Syndicate? Oh, you have like different people that come on and it's not one person's channel. It's like all these different shows. I'm like, how does that, that's just a cool idea. I never even would have thought of that in the streaming sphere. Like that's just
Captain cool. RG3. That's all Captain RG3. He's the one that said, let's turn this into a network. Let's give people with voices from around the world their own shows. I mean, and it takes a lot of trust to do that, because we got a lot of guys that have the StreamYard keys that can just hop into could literally nuke and destroy our channel overnight. But we feel like we've done a good job of identifying those who actually want to grow these communities, these sub communities within the Hex community. And I think we've found all the right actors, and they've all been benevolent, and they all want to do the right thing. So we've been very fortunate that there's those people in this community that are willing to, carry the torch.
Sure. Question, Macalite. Do you feel like still some people look up to Hex? What do you think we should do to improve the community? Some people look up into Hex. I'm not sure how to parse that one.
Yeah, I think what do you think the community should do to improve? Stop attacking each other. I know it's boring and that it's the bear market, and that, there's a lot of economic energy that has left the system. And I know a lot of you guys sat on the sidelines and watched all-time highs, didn't take profits or didn't take enough profits, watching things go down. You know what? If someone is trying to build something in this community, either jump in and help them, or verbally or on Twitter support that you're happy that they are willing to put their time and efforts out there to help enrich this community rather than tear them down. Because I see a lot of negative comments from trolls. And unfortunately, some of you guys are retired Hexagon trolls that have money now that don't have to go to work, and you're the worst trolls out there, and you've been here since the beginning. You know how great this community is. And so I think that's the most discouraging thing sometimes. So support those around you. Don't tear them down. There's two ways to build the highest building in a city. You can either go out and be the best and build the highest building, or you can tear everyone else's down and live in the rubble. Which would you rather?
Exactly. That's a great point. It's I don't think having, what's helped me a lot too, just not having an emotional response to everything. When you see people say stuff on Twitter, otherwise, just be like, take a step back, think, did they, assume assume positive intent too, that goes along with it, or just, why do you care? Like, why do you need to engage? Like, why do you need to even interact with them if they're just
shout out to Chad Donnerschwanz. Chad Donnerschwanz, good to see you, son. My son is in the chats, so everyone say hi to Kinetics son Chad, please. Appreciate that.
Oh,
thanks.
Is he in the
it's
chat?
A long running joke.
Oh, okay. I was like,
you have him up right now. What up, fam?
I'm looking for Kinetics son Chad in the handle. I'm like, I don't see
Oh, gotcha. No, Mr. Chad Donnerschwanz. It's a long-standing joke here in our community. I said, I made the comment one time. I said, if you guys are watching and you were born in the early 2000s, I might be your father. And he goes, Dad, Kinetics, Dad. And I said, yes, I remember your mom, Chad. And so ever since then, it's been my son. So my base dad on RHMax.
That's funny. Yeah, of course his name is Chad too. Like, that's such a good crypto name that you would have fathered a Chad. There you go.
So without turning your stream dirty, you know what someone told me the other day? You know what Donnerschwanz means? I had no idea, but it was Das.
I'm thinking about it now.
Das Bomb is the one that enlightened me to this. Or no, it might have been DJ Cryptomatic. Donnerschwanz means thunder dick. So
That's a great Chad Donnerson. That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah, that escaped me for many, many months. So
I could hear it in German probably. Like it sounds like it could be slang. I believe it. I believe it. I like it. I like it. Amazing. Well, that's a great way to end too. Not that I monetize anyways, but definitely not happening now. Now these Donners. I can't get Donnerswanz out of my head.
Yeah, you'll be thinking about it for a while. Trust me.
So funny.
Days will go by and you'll be like, oh, Donnerschwanz. Yes. Especially every time you see him in the chat. You'll be like, yeah, Chad.
Instead of walking around the house saying Scheiße, I'll walk around the house and say Donnerschwanz.
Donnerschwanz.
Donnerschwanz. Yes. So funny. Thunder Goose.
I love it.
Oh my God. Finally, docs. You guys are hilarious. Well, thanks, Chad. You guys have been awesome.
You got an all-star chat in here, that's for sure.
They show up. Guys. They show up. They go back and forth. They leave funny comments. I got a lot of funny guys and gals in the chat. They're hilarious. So thank you, chat, for coming. When you guys can make me laugh a few times, it's always a good time to do that. Kinetics, appreciate your time. You're a busy man, and to get an hour or so, or hour and a half, wow, we went for a while, out of you, I feel honored just to have a conversation. It's been a long time coming. Glad to finally get with you and talk turkey, talk shop about HEX and all the wonderful things we got going on in the community.
Well, you're one of those up and coming streamers in the community. I think has a long career ahead of them. Maybe not just in this community, but as a public personality, and you do a great job with your show. Very professional, and I just wanted to show support, man, because you're doing good things out there. So thank you.
I really appreciate that. That's all the compliments, all the hate, it all comes from the belly of people who usually have good intentions. And it's always, spend a lot of time and energy doing it. It's always good to hear from people, especially names in the community that see me and see what's going on. Again, I reserve the right to never do this again, drop off, nobody see me again. But if I ever do that, I want the reaction to be, well, he did pretty good. I'm actually okay with it. He
did something.
Don't need to do anything else. Yeah. He did some good stuff. So like we can't hate on him for leaving. So I reserve the right.
I love it, man.
I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on. I don't know if there's a whole lot of quality content that I bring to your channel, but at least I could fill another slot this week for you. So
I mean, I'm looking at my notepad. I got like 6 or 7 clips. So sir, you did fine today. You did
okay.
Fine.
Good.
All right, everyone. I'm back on Friday with Maxim Broadcast. Yeah, another new streamer who's been putting out some quality content.
I like Maxim. He's another good one.
Yep. Yeah. I've got a laundry list of things to ask him, so that one should be a fascinating interview. Follow at The Real Kinetics on Twitter, Discourse Syndicate. Like what? Yeah, show your stuff. What else? Contact.
Yeah,
otherwise you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's at The Real Kinetics on both Telegram and Twitter. I don't check Twitter a whole lot, guys. Sorry. It's just my problem with it is not necessarily that it's I know. Yeah. You of all people definitely know. It's not necessarily that it is the cesspool that it is, because we all know that Twitter's a cesspool, but it's one of those things. If I start getting into the tweets and retweeting and reading everything from everyone, 2 hours goes by and I'm like, oh crap, I missed this report that I needed to get to these business partners. So, I don't get a lot done. So that's part of the reason why I'm not in there all the time. Most of my DMs, if you really need to get a hold of me, are through Telegram, and that's where most stuff gets done. So Discourse Syndicate, come check
Telegram.
Us out. Yeah, it can be. It can be when you get added to all these different pump and dump groups, and you're like, report spam and leave, report spam and leave. But it's a lot easier. Mm-hmm. It almost works like a Trello board for like different things going on for different work groups that I'm in. That this business needs this attention, this business needs that attention, and so that's why I spend most of my time there. Not because it's really any better than the others, but because that's where I'm working out of.
Yeah, follow Discourse Syndicate. Any other shout outs or anything else you got going on before we take off?
Oh yeah, so Friday, effing hangout, guys. We are going to be premiering Kyler Kaufman's new movie Geo. He has gotten permission from the producers. I don't remember exactly the title. It's a short film. Sorry. It is a short film.
You're really selling it right now.
Yeah, I know. I practiced this for hours before I came on. So it's a 24-minute film. It looks really enticing. It's really cool. Hex and the Hexakins got some shout outs in the PR press. But we're going to go ahead and leave that stream up for 24 hours and then we'll take it down. So it will be limited time. But we are going to watch the 24 minutes of the movie and then have Kyler on for an AMA, a question Q&A. And you guys can ask him anything you guys want. And so we want you guys to be there to support Kyler Kaufman. We'd love to see a Discourse Syndicate, but it's more for Kyler than it is for anything else.
That's awesome. All right. Exciting Friday as usual. So many Hex. I stopped streaming on Friday. I'm like, I can't compete. There's so much going on. I just can't. It's not necessary for me to do Fridays. Like too much going on. So, which is a good thing. Too much.
That's smart. Yeah, that's a good thing. 100%.
Yeah. Everyone listening audio only, follow me at RHMax, just the way it sounds on Twitter. Like, subscribe, smash all the buttons, do all the things. I'm going to keep putting out content as long as I feel like it. And that's all. I no expectations of anything. But yeah, I appreciate all y'all's support and see you all. Actually, I said I'm not doing Friday streams. I'm doing Maximum Friday because I shifted things up this week. I know I sounded dumb right there, but yes, this is only this Friday, usually not Fridays. But anyways, everyone, take it easy, and we are